Card King, here I come. Hello, sports fans, sports collectors, and all hobbyists. Welcome to the Card King Sports and Variety Show. I am your host, the Catman, Brian Cataquet, a.k.a. the Card King. We are live on ABC's KMET 1490 AM.com. Your number one spot right here for news and talk on the West Coast. I thank everyone for tuning in this morning. On the telephone line, I welcome to the program from the 1958 Detroit Tigers. I welcome in catcher Jack Feller. Jack, great to have you on. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. This is big thrill for me. Back when I played, we didn't have things like this that went on.
Well, I can tell you, Jack, it's always a pleasure, for me to speak with a pro player from the golden era of baseball, which you were there. So let's begin with your playing background. You played 5 years in pro ball, 1955 through 1959 as a catcher. How did the Tigers organization hear about you?
Well, when I was just finishing high school and as a junior and senior in high school, there wasn't much. We didn't do very much with younger baseball. Everything was done with adults playing in industrial leagues, and I was good enough to play with adults when I was a lot younger, and so we were scouted. All of these different teams were scouted. And then finally, later on, I played in the Hearst baseball tournament around here, and it was loaded with scouts, and I had a good enough tournament that I got pursued by actually Jack Ty was the main one of the Tiger Scouts that selected me, and I was picked to go to Buffalo, New York. There were two of us picked. Reno Vittorio was one of the others, and he went to New York City, and he got to play in the Polo Grounds, and I went to Buffalo and played in their AAA park there. So that's where I signed from. Was right from then. The draft was non-existent in those days.
All right, that's what I was going to ask you, because when we spoke on the phone before the show, prior to the show, you reminded me there was no draft.
No, there was no draft then. Everything was done by Bird Dog Scouts, and they traveled around to all these amateur baseball gatherings and games, and that's kind of where you got signed from.
Now, Jack, Panama City Flyers of the Alabama-Florida League, 1955. That was the first organized team you were involved with, right?
Oh, that was a great summer. Yes, that was my first year. That was the Alabama-Florida-Georgia League, I think it was, and we played in places like Dothan, Alabama, and Panama City, Florida, and Fort Walton Beach, Florida, and Graceville, Florida, and Donaldsonville, Georgia, all of those really big towns that through the South there. And, well, boy, I had a great time there. It was, I remember renting a 3-bedroom apartment for $35 a month. I thought that was just great.
Unbelievable. Now, you played that manager Bill Adair, I believe, was
Bill
the manager
Adair,
for that team.
yes.
How was playing for Bill Adair?
Pardon me?
How was it playing for him?
Great. Bill Adair was one of my favorite people. He and his wife, Olene, were great. Bill was he was quite a bit older, naturally, but he was a playing manager in that league. Bill played second base, but he was a great player manager. He was just super. I think Bill later went to coach, I believe, in the big leagues with Montreal, I believe.
I believe he did, yeah. Now, reading your statistics during that 1955 season, Jack, I see that you led the batters with significant playing time. You averaged like .329 of playing time, so you led batters with significant playing time. They really enjoyed your playing style.
Well, I really did have a good year. I hit a lot of line drives that year, I remember, but I was trying to think back whether or not I think we played around 120, 130 games. I think you're right. I think I hit in the 320s that year, and that probably was pretty close to the top. Of course, they always accused me of having warning track power, but I hit a lot of home runs.
Yeah, and something interesting about that team, not only Jack Feller made it to the pros, you also had a teammate, I don't know if you recall, Bob Johnson. There were two players that made the Major League roster during their career coming out of that team. Bob Johnson.
Third baseman, right?
Yeah, I believe infielder, yeah. But that's what caught my eye. It was only yourself and Bob Johnson to make it to the pros that came out of the Panama City Flyers.
That's right. That's probably true. That's probably true. We had a couple of older veterans that came from other organizations, and other than that, we were just babies. we weren't very old, but we had a great time, and Bill was great to play for, and I remember that we won the pennant and we won the playoffs, and I came home. I was a conquering hero.
Well, also a couple of years later, 1957, you're playing for the Durham Bulls Tigers, the minor league affiliate, and there you're playing for Bob Mavis, right?
Absolutely, my second favorite manager of all time, Bobby Mavis.
And I'm sorry, that was a good team. That team finished in first place as well.
That's right. That's correct. There were a couple, three guys out of that one that made it to the big leagues, and I think the only one that really distinguished himself was Phil Regan. He was a pitcher we had down there, and he became elected reliever of the year, either the Dodgers or the Cubs. But he was a good pitcher. But that was a good team. That was a really good team.
It was. It finished in first place. So now, how was it playing for Class A ball at Augusta?
Augusta was good. I played for Bill Adair again. He had moved to Augusta, and I went there, and that was another good team.
And that was the Sally League, I believe. That was the Sally League.
South Atlantic League, right? Yeah, that was good league. Macon, Georgia, was in that league at that time, and Augusta and Charleston, South Carolina, I think. But that team. We really pitched well with that team, but I almost had a disaster there in Augusta. I took a fastball right between the eyes, trying to get out of the way. But that was a good team. That was a good team.
Yeah, they had a lot of major leaguers to come out of that team. You had Jackie Moore, Bill Graham, Bubba Morton, yourself, Jack Feller, Howie Koplitz, Frank Castro. There was a lot of major leaguers, that made it to the pros. That came out of that.
That's right.
Yeah,
a lot of good teams. I don't know whether the Tigers at that time had another B franchise or not, but that was the Carolina League, and I always thought that was one of my favorite years too. 1957. Yeah.
We're talking with Jack Feller, who played for the 1958 Detroit Tigers, and it couldn't have come at a better time with the Tigers being in the division series, Jack.
That's right. That's right. We're waiting right now here in Michigan. We're waiting for that ball game to start at 1:08. I'm really looking forward to that. They have exceeded all expectations, I think, for them, and with that, especially the age of their roster at this time, and they've got a bunch of young signees that are going to produce even more for them. I think A.J. Hinch is a good manager too.
No, I agree. I think they have a good chance to win. Let's hope. I was going to ask you, Jack. Looking at your minor league statistics, you batted pretty solid your career. Almost 300, 272 and 474 minor league games. So, I mean, you did well as a catcher in the minor leagues, I would say. You had solid years.
Yep, those were good years. I always figured my strength was catching and arm strength, and that I always I think was held back by a lack of power, but that's neither here nor there. Those were all good years, and I played for a lot of great people. You didn't mention 59 yet. He's one of my favorites too, Jack McKeon.
Yes, but 1958 is a big year. I mean, you make it to the big stage. You're on the roster.
Yeah.
Talk about 58, the Detroit Tigers.
58. Well, the Tigers were at that time. They were right at the bottom of the top four in the American League, and of course there wasn't any divisions or anything like that, and but they were a pretty good solid team, but at that time the dreaded Yankees beat everybody in the American League, it seemed like, but 58 was a good year. That was a good year in Augusta. We won that pennant too. We beat Jacksonville in the playoffs and ended up winning the Sally League, and so that was a good year. And I was at home a few days after the close of the season. I was helping my dad paint a house, actually, and I got a call from the general manager of the Tigers at that time saying that Bill Norman had called me up when the rosters expanded in September. So that was a big thrill to get that and get called up and be with them.
I mean, that's a team, Jack. You know better than anybody that had iconic names like Billy Martin, Al Kaline, Harvey Keene. You had a young Tito Francona. How was it being a part around these people in the dugout?
Well, that's all true, and that was it was after playing through the minor leagues, being in those dugouts. I had seen them all through spring training, and at that time they wandered in and out of Tiger Town in Lakeland, and so we got to know, maybe not, we weren't buddies with all of them, but I got to know them well. And so, yes, there were certain names that you can be in awe of. Al Kaline was one. I always was very fond of Charlie Maxwell, Papa, and he was a member of that team. He seemed like he always hit a home run on Sunday. But Jim Bunning was on that team, and Frank Larry and Paul Foytek. They had a pretty good pitching staff. So I caught a lot of them either warming up or whatsoever. But they were good people.
Yes. So Al Kaline was a good person, huh?
Yes, sir. I had a locker right beside him,
Oh,
so
wow.
talked quite a bit during that. I don't know how that happened to work out. I was the rookiest of the rookies, and
Wow.
have a class seat right there beside Al Kaline was really good.
Unbelievable. You know, Jack, I'm looking at a 59 issue of Baseball Digest, and there's a quote that was written about you. Jack Fella, good arm and good glove. Do you remember that quote?
No, not really.
Yeah, so I'm looking at that now. Now, we got to remember that, one of your highlights in your career was catching United States Congressman Jim Bunning, right? Former United
That's
States
right.
Congressman.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Good sinker, good fastball. Pitched no hitters in both leagues, I think, and a good man. Just a good man. He tried to get guys that were called up in September. Later on in life, he tried to get us all as part of the pension plan with the big leaguers. I don't know how we. I'm not getting any money, so I obviously figure his efforts fell through, but he made the effort anyway.
Man, Jim Bunning, 9-time All Star. He was the American League wins leader in '57, and like I mentioned, also a member of the United States Congress. So you had the privilege to catch him.
That's right, absolutely right. Big thrill.
Unbelievable.
Playing against Baltimore, we were beating Baltimore real bad, and I got to catch his last inning in that ball game. I know. He struck out one and got a couple of easy outs, and that was pretty much it.
Unbelievable. Now, when you made your major league debut, you replaced catcher Red Wilson? Probably,
yeah. Another good man. Red was a Wisconsin fullback, I think, in the Big Ten at one time, but he was one of the few catchers that I ever knew and that I played with, against, or whatever, that could steal bases, and that must have come from his days as being a running back at Wisconsin, because he could run and do all of these things.
Yeah,
and so he was
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say he's one of the only that I ever ran in at that time that could do those kinds of things.
So your major league debut, if I'm correct, I'm looking at one of your baseball cards. September 13th, 1958 is where you made your major league debut. What do you remember most about that day coming into the game? Were you nervous, excited? What was how emotional were you?
Not very. I am not a high emotion guy, number one. Number two, if we're talking about that day that I filled in to catch Bunning at the tail end of that game, if we're talking about the same date, the game was quite a bit out of hand when I went in, and so it wasn't earth-shaking, and I wasn't nervous, I know, at the same time, although I remember Billy Martin wanting me to do something stupid at that time, and so he wanted to put a couple of baseballs in socks and probably tried to hide the mask. But other than that, there wasn't much emotion to that at all.
Wow. So what happened with Billy Martin there? Can you elaborate a little bit on that? What
Not
happened?
much, except he knew that this was going to be my first game in there, and so he was. I don't know exactly what he was trying to do other than being Billy Martin, and so he was trying to make it be as nervous as it possibly could be, and he didn't know, I guess, that wasn't my makeup to be that nervous in that kind of situation. I caught these guys all in spring training, so it wasn't a big problem. So it was. I just wasn't very emotional at that time.
Yeah, we all know about Billy Martin's, drinking issues. Do you remember a young Billy Martin in '58? Was he? Do you recall? Was he a heavy drinker back then?
I didn't know. We didn't really hang out. I ran into him down at Tiger Town a few times, and whether he did a lot of drinking or not, I don't know. When I was down there on spring training, I was hanging out mainly with guys from Tiger Town that I played with off and on down through the few years, and so I didn't see him. I saw him a couple times, but how much he was or wasn't drinking, I have no idea.
We're talking with Jack Fella of the 1958 Detroit Tigers. He's on the telephone line. And, Jack, I have a couple of minutes left. And you mentioned Jack McKeon in '59. Let's talk about that.
Fine. Jack McKeon was he was 1 year. I got sent from somewhere to Fox Cities, Wisconsin. And he was the manager up there. He was, I think, about only 1 year from playing. I think he also was a catcher, but anyway, he was our manager at Fox Cities, and that was a pretty good team. Also, I know Fox Cities wasn't a place to be playing in the fall of the year when the Green Bay Packers were up there playing at the same time. They could outdraw us at the hot dog stand, on that. But Jack McKeon was a good manager, and after I was done playing, as a matter of fact, he was managing out in the West Coast League, and he called me. I was in school then at that time. I was at college, and he said, I need a catcher, and I need somebody to catch my pitchers, and you don't have to hit anything. Can you get your release from the Tigers? And I said, I don't know, Jack. I'll try. And so I called the Tiger front office, and they said, no, if you want to play, you can play with us, but we're not going to give you a release. And so I didn't get to go. I really wanted to go play for Jack again.
I mean, that's amazing. And Jack McKeon, a World Series champion, and a San Diego and a Hall of Famer for the Padres.
Yep, good man. Good man.
So I have like a minute or two left.
I want to tell you a Jack McKeon story.
Go ahead.
We played up there at Fox Cities, and we were playing a doubleheader. And Jack had a run-in with the umpires at the end of game one, and of course you never get the last word with them. And he in between games, he got the ground crew to dump a wheelbarrow load of warning track stones on home plate. And then when they came out to exchange lineup cards before the game, those umpires saw that mound of crushed stone on home plate, and they were just livid. they told McKeon he had 1 minute to get that off, or they were going to forfeit the second game. Jack just laughed and called the ground crew. that was it. But I'd never seen that happen before in all those games.
Man, so now when you retired from baseball, did you follow the game, Jack?
Oh yeah, I'm still a big fan. Still a big fan of baseball. Yeah, greatest game in the world.
So much. It's changed so much, right?
Oh yeah, and the changes I see it. The things that we thought were commonplace in the game, breaking up the double play, blocking home plate. None of these things are legal anymore. All these things have been ruled out as far as the game is concerned. Pitchers don't want to pitch inside because they're afraid to get thrown out of the game for throwing at somebody, and that was a common occurrence.
Man, so
but
listen,
the game has really changed. I played with Mickey Lolich a year. Mickey Lolich had another great arm, and I tell you, I watch games on television, and if a starting pitcher gets close to 90 pitches, the bullpens are up and working like crazy. I don't think Mickey Lolich ever pitched a baseball game in the big leagues that he didn't throw 140 pitches. I don't. That was a common occurrence for him.
I know you guys were competitors. I mean, if you ask me, you guys were the real deal. That's why it's the golden age of baseball. But
I agree.
Oh, absolutely. My time is up, but let's do it again. I really appreciate your time, Jack.
All right. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Take care of yourself.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
My pleasure. That was Jack Feller, catcher, 1958, Detroit Tigers. Until next week, happy collecting to all.